Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chasing Joy Show. I am ARHartie, blogger and joy strategist at chasing-joy.com. I'm also the creator of the Vision Board in a Box Kit, and I am your host for the Chasing Joy Show. I am super excited tonight because this is season 2, episode 1, kicking off. It's truly and officially a show now because we are into the second season. So I'm thrilled to be back bringing you more interesting conversations surrounding happiness, joy, how we're chasing it, and interesting perspectives on life from engaging people, mostly women, but there's also some men in the mix this season, which is awesome. All about how we're chasing joy and unique ways to look at life to have more happiness and build that resilience that we need, which is what I call like the bounce back factor. That's really what chasing joy is all about, how we can bounce back when life knocks us down or sends us curveballs. So I'm super excited for our guest tonight. Before I officially introduce him, I'm going to ask him to turn on his camera and microphone, and we're going to get started with my favorite icebreaker. Everyone, this is Tim Sohn. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Arlett. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
So my favorite icebreaker, if you watched season 1, then you know, is
Yes.
2 truths and a lie. So before we do anything else, share with us your 3 statements, your 2 truths and a lie. And I'm going to try and guess. And if other people join us in the audience, we'll let them guess too.
Okay. So one of the statements is that I have lived in Ohio.
Okay.
One of the statements is I have lived in New Mexico.
Oh boy. Okay.
One of the statements is that I have lived in New Hampshire.
Yes, it's all geography.
Yes.
Okay, this is a hard one because any of those places are, totally feasible that you could have lived there. I mean, you really could live anywhere in the world, but if you would have said like Antarctica, obviously that would have been like, possible, but not super likely for the average person. But all these places. So let me
Right.
repeat them back. Ohio, New Mexico, and New Hampshire.
Correct.
Okay. So this is the game, 2 truths and a lie. So Tim just gave us 3 statements, 2 of which are true, and 1 is the lie. And our goal is to try and guess the lie. I think there's a few people starting to watch. Whoever's watching, say hi. So when you guys see me looking over to the side, I'm looking at the Facebook live stream where we're recording this show live and have our virtual studio audience via my private Facebook group, the Chasing Joy Chaser Facebook group. So if anyone who's in our virtual studio audience wants to take a guess, just let me know in the comments. I'm gonna talk through my thought process here. So when you first said Ohio, I was like, I can see that because that's not far from Pennsylvania. Not that people couldn't
Right.
move anywhere, but I know of some people who kind of crossed the border from
Right.
Ohio into Pennsylvania. So that's fairly common. And when I talk to you, because we have met in person, which I'll get to when I
Yes.
formally introduce you, I've never noticed like any kind of accent that would make me think you were from somewhere far away. That made me think that maybe not. And I've never met anyone from New Hampshire, so I don't know. Well, I met someone know people from New England, and they do seem to have a bit of an accent. The people that
That's
I
true.
know. So,
Yeah.
hmm.
Like the
But then
the
you could have lived
Boston
there when you
accent.
were young. Yes, but you could have lived there when you were younger.
I could have.
All right. All right. I really don't know. This is a. I like it when it's the true stumper like this. I'm going to
All right.
guess. I'm going to guess Ohio in my being the lie. And the reason I'm going to guess that being the lie has nothing to do with anything really sound. Just because the other two both had New Mexico and New Hampshire. So I'm going to go with the oddball, Ohio, and say that's the lie.
You are correct.
Yeah. I like my process of elimination there.
Yeah. And I've actually lived in all of the new states.
Really?
Yeah. New Mexico, New Hampshire, New York, and New Jersey.
That's really interesting.
Right.
So if you ever get an icebreaker that's like, tell me something interesting about yourself, you should definitely say you've lived in all of the new states. That's
Right.
really neat. Wow. So when did you live in New Hampshire and New Mexico?
New
And
Mexico,
why did you pick those two since you lived in all the new states?
yeah. So when I finished college, I was living in New York. Well, my parents live in New York and I grew up in New York. And then when I finished college, I wanted to work at a newspaper, but it was hard to get a job in Connecticut or New York to get a newspaper job. So I sent my resume out everywhere. I went to journalismjobs.com and I didn't care what the state was. And this guy, Barry from the Daily Times in Farmington, New Mexico, near the Navajo reservation, called me and said, "We want to fly you out for an interview." So that's how I ended up in New Mexico. And then New Hampshire, I also worked at a newspaper there, actually after the New Mexico one.
Wow, so that's really interesting. So before we go further, let
Yes.
me just kind of formally introduce Tim.
Ooh.
So Tim is an instructor with Survive and Rise with live video live streaming course that I recently took, actually, you guys. He's also an award-winning live streaming producer of memorable virtual events, and he's the founder of Sohn Social Media Solutions. Tim's also a husband and a dad. And I have to say, the picture that I used on our flyer to market season 1, episode 1 with Tim, I love, excuse me, because his hair was so fabulously styled by his daughter. And that, really resonated with me because my dad would let me play in his hair a lot. And I was like, oh, that's so awesome. So welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you, Arlett. I'm
So
excited.
I'm super excited to have you. I was going to say, based when you were talking about how you lived in those states, so your background is in traditional media, then with
Yes.
newspapers. So that's great that you kind of
Yeah.
pivoted and kept up with the times, which has been challenging for people in the newspaper industry
Oh, for
in
sure.
general.
Yeah, I was working in newspapers right when they were falling off a cliff in like 2008 through I don't know what. Like the newsroom side, there were like major layoffs. Not to make
Right.
this all not on the positive light and joyful, but um, yeah, definitely
No,
pivoted.
no, no. I mean, because I think most of us remember that probably all over the country, newspapers and your local newspapers shutting down and
Mhm,
downsizing and different things. So
for sure.
we all kind of understand it. So I was trying to remember where we met Tim, and I really
Yes.
don't remember. Like I know it was at like a blog event. I just
Yes.
didn't remember which one. I was like, was it Build Your Influence? But I feel like that was later. It was Build Your Influence. Okay.
Yes.
Because
I
then
don't
and then we
remember. I don't remember where the location was.
me neither. Because that they've had that conference a few times, right?
Yeah, they had
Okay.
it in Hershey one year. They had it
Right.
in, I can't even remember. There was another place that was like in a building that was more off the beaten path.
Mhm.
I don't remember what town that was in. Yeah, I don't know.
Valley Forge.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah, they
right.
did it in Valley Forge.
Yeah. I don't remember.
I
How
feel
many
like
did you
I
go
met.
to?
I feel like I've been to like at least three. I feel like I
Yeah.
met you at the first one I went to, and saw you at the other ones, and we stayed in touch.
Yes.
Um, and you were
Yes.
always super friendly, and
Oh, you too.
you always seemed right at home at these conferences, which were traditionally like 90% female. And I just thought that was awesome too. Like, you just like owned your space, and I liked how the diversity element that you would bring in to those events, being there.
Yes.
So I invited him to be on the show. One, because he's great at doing shows, right? You saw from his bio, he does this regularly. But also because I had been on his show, I wanted to return a favor. But I was really interested in getting kind of like a male perspective on like happiness and chasing joy. Especially him seems to balance a lot like I do, and most of like you joy chasers do, being like a dad and a husband, and from all outward appearances a very involved dad and husband, and also being an entrepreneur. So I just thought Tim would have some really interesting and unique insights to bring to us. So like I said, most of my guests are going to be women for the Chasing Joy show because most of my audience is women. So Tim, the pressure is on. You're
I'm feeling it.
representing the men, right?
That's right.
So one of the first things that I wanted to ask is kind of what is the male perspective on happiness. Like I talk about happiness and wanting, more joy in my life with my friends a lot. I probably talk about it more often than even maybe most women just because of nature of what I do at Chasing Joy. But I feel like women have these conversations. Do men have these conversations? Like, do they think about happiness probably differently than we do? So like can you like let us in and tell us how you guys kind of think about and approach this?
I can try. I certainly do not represent all the men of the world, but I could try.
Darn.
um, um, I don't think it's something that's talked about as much. Happiness per se. I mean, I'm sure there are topics that people talk about. I mean, this is kind of a broad question. I'm trying to think. I mean, yeah, I don't really like, I'm just trying to think of conversations I have with other friends that are male. And
Yeah.
like, are we
Maybe you
talking?
guys use like other kind of language for it. Like maybe you're not saying like, oh, I want to be happier, but maybe
Yeah,
you're saying
no.
something like oh, like I'm bored, or do you maybe you want to be more fulfilled? Is that more of a word that men use or no?
No, no, not me anyway.
No.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I definitely do think the language is probably different somehow,
Mhm, mhm.
but I'm not really sure what it is. Isn't this an enlightenment? Are you so glad I have you on as a guest? It's question number one, and I'm like, hmm.
Well, no, because that in itself is kind of enlightening. Because I know that they say like women use like how many more thousands of words per day than men. So maybe men don't
Oh,
really discuss this. Maybe this isn't something you guys communicate about. Um, so yeah, that's interesting in and of itself. That you guys aren't having, or maybe the men are just much more fulfilled. Do you think than
depending
women?
on the person, I would suppose.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of other. friends I have that are, I guess some talk about it, but maybe they don't, like they don't
Mm,
use the word happiness, but yeah, I don't know.
right.
It's a really good question. I'm gonna have to ponder that now.
Yeah. Like I really couldn't imagine, I'll be real stereotypical. Say a bunch of guys out on the golf course that, saying, wish I'd have much more joy if, I could, get this hole in one. I don't really see anyone saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is a show that I work on called Shout Out Saturday that I produce, and the show is all about positivity and bringing people on to spotlight them live on LinkedIn Live, and it is really all about happiness. Like even in the middle of a pandemic, we're trying to shine
Right.
spotlight. I need coffee. Shine the light on others. So that's all about, I mean, it's about positivity,
Right.
which I guess you could kind of go toward happiness with that.
Hmm.
um and Brian Schulman is the host of that show, and he's all about radiating positive vibes, uh
Okay.
which is maybe going in that direction.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like I can
Okay.
see that being talked about more. You know what? I can see, and I'm just guessing, but I could see men being more willing to talk about like the outward kind of energy of happiness, like you're saying, like a positive vibe and what they kind of put out into the world
Mhm.
versus their inward feelings about
Right.
it. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting take.
Yeah, I could kind
Yeah.
of see that more. Um, yeah. So along the same lines, right? I'm wondering, like,
Uh-oh.
part of right. This one I think will be easier. I think this will be an easier question. So along the same lines, when I started converting chasing joy from like a hobby personal thing into a brand and a business, I went back and I looked at all the different things that I had worked on over the years so that I could articulate them properly to any clients or readers or viewers. And one of the areas that I had worked on was self-care. And so self-care is like this hot topic over the last several years. Everybody talks about self-care. But when I say everywhere, everybody is it's always women, at least from in my social media feeds, which is probably because I am a woman. So I'm just
Right.
wondering how, like, I feel like everyone practices self care in their own way, but I don't really foresee or imagine men talking about self care and using the phrase self care. So, like, do men ever address it as self care? And if not, what kind of, like, how do you guys talk about how you kind of take care of yourself and your needs and whatnot?
Yeah. I don't really hear the word self-care. You're right. In At least on my social media news feeds or people that I talk to, but like, they would talk about issues like weight loss, or maybe they would use a word like wellness, or
Mhm.
um I'm trying to think, like, but not usually self-care.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think wellness is another one, another like hot topic phrase that you hear. So wellness
Yes.
probably translates better if you're trying to reach both males and females than saying like self-care. But men obviously do self-care. Um, like we all do the self-care of like the weight loss, like maybe going to the gym, when we're blessed to have gyms available
Yes.
again one day, and trying to like eat right and, going to our doctor's appointments, which stereotypically women are better at doing than men. I don't know. I'm not married,
Hmm.
so I don't know. I don't have to nag. I don't have a husband that I have to nag to go do that. But I
Right.
hear that's a common thing. But then there's like the fun thing, like the me time, and I think for guys, like the man cave, right? I think I hear that And I really think that's a form of self-care, like men feeling like, or not feeling like, but having, for those who are blessed to be able to have one, having some space in their home that they feel is theirs, that they could decorate to their taste and kind of like
Yeah.
have an outlet within the home. Like do you have a man cave?
I don't have a man cave, but I do have my office, which is in the basement.
Okay.
I usually just come down here to do work. So it's not
Right.
really a place of relaxation or anything like that, but it is away from everyone else.
Yeah. So yeah, what are your thoughts on like the man cave being like a physical kind of aspect of self-care for men?
um, I don't like, I've never had a man cave.
Right.
So it's kind of hard for me to comment on it because
Mhm.
I don't really relate with it. Like I've never
Oh,
really had a
okay.
desire to have a man cave.
Uh,
I
that
don't
probably
know
makes your
why.
wife really happy. You don't feel like you got to get away from her.
Well, I get away other ways or other places,
Uh,
but
you
like
just messed up your brownie plates.
I know I'm not doing well here. When she watches the video back, I'm gonna be in trouble.
No, no, no.
um,
Um, I I don't know when they started using the term man cave, but I remember my uncle at his house, he had like a pool table in the basement. And it wasn't per se a man cave because we were allowed to go in it as kids and like hang out. But that space had like all his trophies from all his sport accomplishments over the years. And it definitely had a different vibe kind
yeah,
of than the rest of the house. So I do kind of feel like that was a space that he probably had more input on.
yeah,
But the term man cave wasn't really used, in the 80s when I was growing up. Um,
okay,
and like I said, we were all allowed to go in it. So I don't think it was like it was his space that we weren't allowed to be there, but it definitely felt like more of his space than I would say the rest of the house.
right,
Um, so, when I was introducing Tim, I was mentioning, all the things he does. He has his own business, he teaches courses. He's also a dad and a husband, and he's recently been calling himself a Zoom dad, right? Because we're living in
yes,
these crazy times of COVID-19 and the pandemic. And at the time we're recording this, it's April, and in some ways we might see some glimmers of hope in terms of light at the end of the tunnel. But we're definitely still in the midst of this thing. So how do you make time for yourself? You don't have a man cave. We've already established that. So how do you make time for yourself when you're like balancing all these things, wearing all these
yeah,
hats, being Zoom dad, helping your daughter with her school and everything from home? How are
yeah.
you balancing it all?
So so sometimes when my wife Joy, she's a teacher, when she comes home, sometimes I'll go out for a walk where we like pass by each other basically. And on the weekend, I usually try to as well if the weather is nice. When COVID started, I was taking walks every morning. Joy would be here teaching and helping the girls and everything. But before they started, I would take a walk in the morning. But then when we switched the kids to remote learning they were in school until January, but then the real numbers really started getting crazy. So we were like, we think it's like now's the time. Like we were going to do it earlier, but we've been procrastinating and procrastinating and procrastinating. And so in January, we switched them. But breaking news on Wednesday, they're going back to school.
Oh,
Yeah.
so Zoom dad is getting a little maybe a retirement. We'll see how these numbers go.
I know. I know. The numbers here they're going down in the girls' school, and all the
Okay.
teachers that want to be vaccinated have been vaccinated in their school. In the high school, it's another story. Like the whole last week, they shut down.
Mm.
But
Yeah, I think I heard that in Philadelphia, they've not allowed the high school kids to come back, but I think
oh wow.
some of the lower grades. I'm not
Yeah.
sure
Hmm.
about that. Okay, so it sounds like you get to go out, take some walks. It seems like that's
Yeah,
your main kind
I like
of.
to walk by the Delaware River in nature where it's just like quiet and just quiet.
Yes,
I love that.
I think there's a lot of value in getting out in nature. The quiet, and then even the physical aspects get that vitamin D, which is a mood booster, and most people are deficient in vitamin D because we don't go outside that much, and because of UV rays and all that, we have to put on sunblock and whatnot. So most of us aren't getting enough vitamin D, and just boosting your vitamin D can increase your happiness. So getting out for the walk does that, the fresh air,
Yeah.
and then just like being in nature and being able to appreciate it. I see your pictures that you post sometimes from your walks.
Yeah,
I
I've been
think.
doing that. I've been doing
Mhm,
that since I started that when the pandemic started, when I was walking
mhm.
every day. I don't do it. I don't get to quite walk quite as often, at least not till Wednesday. Uh, I can't wait for that. I'm gonna go walking every morning again.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I've really enjoyed taking photos while I'm out walking now, which also is kind of nice because then you get to like look back at the pictures from the walks and
Mhm.
before you post them and everything. So that's been kind of, and then I also have taken some of the pictures and like added music to them and then like created live streams just out of like
Oh
peaceful
wow.
music and photos, and people are like, thank you so much, I really needed that. On I usually do it like on the weekend or something like that.
That that could be like a good meditation thing almost. Like people like
Exactly.
me, I'm not great at meditation because it's hard for me to quiet my mind.
Yeah.
But so a guided meditation or just sitting and watching something like that and quiet where you're looking at the nature.
Yeah.
uh that's I have to I don't think I've caught one of those live streams on the weekend, but I'm not. um well, I am on social media all the time because I'm attached to my phone, but I feel like I'm not quite as engaged on there during the
Yeah.
weekend as I am during the week sometimes. Because during the weekend, I'm not working. It's odd. You think when I was working, I'd have less time, but I probably need more
Right.
outlets for like moments of fun when I'm
Yeah.
working. But then also on the weekend when I'm not working, I'm like, well, let me pay more attention to my kid since I
Yeah.
don't have to be multitasking. Um,
Right.
when you were talking about taking the pictures on your walks through the pandemic, since we've been home and in this situation for like over a year now, you could probably see all the changes of nature through the seasons
Hmm.
through your videos. So that would be like awesome if you could like do one of those time thing. I forget what it's called, but where you just like show the
Yeah.
same kind of scenery over time and like over a minute, show like the whole year, something like that would be cool. And you
That
can
would
make
be really cool.
a scrapbook of all your photos, because then one day, 50 years from now, they'll be like, oh, and back in the pandemic of 2020, oh, and then this guy made a book of of his nature walks. Um,
I do really like that idea though.
yeah,
That video
feel
idea, that's really
yeah,
cool. I like that.
feel free to take it. Just tag me when you
Put
do it.
credit Arlett
Just tag me when you do it so I can watch it. Um,
Hartie.
so how long have you had Sohn social media solutions?
Yes, the business with the longest name ever was started between 7 and 8 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How long have I known you? Has I been known you that long?
I don't know, but it's been a
I mean,
while.
it's been a while. I feel like, oh wow, because I feel like you didn't have it had, or maybe it was brand new when we met.
It was
Yeah,
definitely
just that.
earlier. I don't even
Ha-
remember what years we went to those
Yeah,
conferences.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, so especially since you have, as you mentioned earlier when we were doing the two truths and the lie, you have this background of like this from traditional media, and now you're an entrepreneur. Like, how has being an entrepreneur like improved your like overall happiness or well-being?
So the thing I would say I love the most about being an entrepreneur is the flexibility that it gives you. So, like before the pandemic, to be able to like go to the girls' gymnastics class or dance class or that kind of thing. If somebody gets sick, you can stay home with them, and just like I think I don't want to say it's easier, but like if you're an entrepreneur, then you don't have to worry about, like calling out of like, sick from work or, that kind
Right.
of thing. Um, so I would say just like happiness wise, just like being able to prioritize family, in relation to being able to make your own schedule, essentially.
Right. That's right.
That
Because
makes sense.
when I was on your show, I was on the Family First show.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like I have not taken the leap to being of letting go my day job.
Mhm.
And I don't know that I will, especially not anytime soon. But I can
Yeah.
definitely relate to the flexibility aspect because that's part of why I chose my career field. Because I work for the government service, and we have a ability to have a lot of flexibility that some more private industry type jobs do not allow for. So I
Oh,
could
that's great.
definitely relate to the flexibility aspect, but I definitely can see where being an entrepreneur could improve your happiness because, like you're saying, you get to prioritize the things that you actually value, as opposed to trying
Right.
to prioritize what the company values and trying to get your things, your values covered in there at the same time. Um,
Yeah.
but you know, gotta make the man happy because he writes your paycheck. So just
Right.
because you get to be the man, so you get to dictate all of that, um, and adjust your priorities as you need to.
Yeah. I don't even know if I mean, maybe at some point, I couldn't even see myself going back to work for somebody else like anytime in the near future. Like that would be so weird. I don't know how I would adjust to that.
Yeah, I can. I feel like most people who have stepped into full time entrepreneurship don't really go back. Um,
Right.
or if they do, I feel like it could be very challenging. I remember years ago, the hair salon I used to go to was inside of the Saks, like the Saks department store.
Oh, yeah.
They used to have a hair salon in there. And there were a couple of like, so it was a very like high end store. And so the salon, they had whatever their rules and whatnot were a bit extra. And some of all the stylists in there were excellent, but a few of the stylists had previously had their own salons
Mhm.
prior to the economy kind of turning down. And they were
Yeah.
really having a hard time working at Saks because they were used to setting their own rules and like
Right.
things that this company wanted to do like didn't make sense. And so I, could hear all this going on around me while I was getting my hair done. Um,
Yeah.
so I could definitely see it would be hard to go back to being a worker bee, for someone else's
Yeah.
vision once you kind of been doing your own thing. I know we have a few people watching. If you guys have questions for me or Tim, just drop them in the comments in the Facebook group, and I will definitely get to them. All right, so Tim,
Arlett.
we're going to make this fun. I have a game for you.
I was wondering what this
I have a
game
game for
is.
you. Oh Yes. So it's gonna be fun, don't worry. And it's gonna be
Okay.
short. So if any of you are friends with Tim on Facebook, then you know his favorite place to go is Dunkin' Donuts, right? So
Yes.
our game is going to tie right into that, because I know you run on Dunkin'. So let me just pull it up right quick. I thought I had it open, but I didn't. And let me pull it up. And then I'm going to share my screen with you and we will kick off our game. For those watching on Facebook, let me know in the comments when you can see the screen. So our game is called Name That Donut. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, let me know, guys, on Facebook if you guys can see the screen. So let me
French
know.
color.
You're so fast. I think I hit that one. Yes, so this was the first one. Tim already got it. French color. It was French color or old fashioned. Miss Lily, I see her throwing up likes. She likes this game.
This is hilarious.
All right, all right. Let me give it a pause. So let's see if we can let our studio audience join in and guess the donuts with us. Well, I know the donuts because I made the game. Guess with you. All right. So our next one is this a chocolate
Ooh.
frosted, a double chocolate frosted, or a double chocolate? Those watching, let me know in the comments what you think it is as well. You guys can play along. Chocolate frosted, double chocolate frosted, or a double chocolate? Which one do you think?
Hmm. I don't think it's the first one. I think it's going to be, oh, uh,
The hard one, huh?
this is tricky.
I was trying to not
I,
make them too easy.
I'm gonna say double chocolate.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
Let's see, do we have any guesses from you guys watching on Facebook? It gives them a minute to see if anybody else wants to type in a guess. Now, do
I
you
don't.
actually buy the donuts when you go usually, or do you usually just get a coffee?
Mm, occasionally I get donuts, but not nearly as
Not
much as
all the time.
coffee.
Yeah. Can't really get donuts every day. That's not good.
No.
All right. So let's see. The answer is double chocolate frosted.
Okay.
So you're 1-1.
All right. There's hope.
Okay. There's hope. What's the next one? Is this a Bavarian cream,
Oh
a
gosh.
Boston cream, or a chocolate iced with cream? You see, this one is
Mm.
on the very lovely Dunkin' Donuts napkin. So these are
It is very
100%
lovely.
Dunkin' Donuts brand donuts.
Um, how? Hmm. Hmm. I'm gonna say Boston cream,
All right, let's give it a second in case anybody else wants to make a guess.
or maybe not.
Guys can drop your guesses in the comments if you have them. Okay. Oh, and the last one, Chanel said she guessed double chocolate frosted. And this time Shane and Miss Lily both say Boston cream. Miss
Ooh.
Lily says she buys that all the time. So let's see. She's right. Okay, Miss
Yay.
Lily. All right. I think this might be Janice says, do we get a prize? You guys get the prize of being in the studio audience virtually of the Chase and Joy Show. You're winning already. All right. So this one, I think this might be our last one. Is this a vanilla ice glaze or a vanilla frosted?
I'm going vanilla frosted.
All right. What do you guys think in the audience? I'll give them a minute. It was hard to find these pictures, if you believe it or not.
Where did you get them from?
It's the internet.
Okay.
But there were so many of the like specialty ones, because I guess when they do
Yes.
the special themed ones, they advertise those more than the regulars. And
Yeah.
okay, so we have overwhelming votes for vanilla frosted from Janice, Chanel, Miss Lily, Shane, and the Chanel says with sprinkles. The answer is vanilla frosted.
Yay.
All right, and that was our last one for our game. That was fun.
That
So I'll
was a
tell you
great
what I
idea.
did, how I made it a little more challenging. Let me stop
Yeah.
sharing my screen. I went to Krispy Kreme and found their versions, and I threw in their names to make it not be so easy. Because I was like, this could be too easy if I'm comparing just two Dunkin' Donut ones, you
Right.
know. So I had to mix it up there for you.
That was good. I didn't recognize some of the names, so I
That's why,
figured you
because
were
they
up to
weren't from
something.
Dunkin'. They were from Krispy Kreme. Um, so Tim, this has been fun, guys. As we kind of
Yes.
wind down our interview, if you guys have any questions for Tim, anything you want us to elaborate on that we've been discussing, just drop them in the comments and I'll get to them as we kind of wind down. You kind of already answered this, but I'll give you opportunity to elaborate a little more. I've been basically asking every guest, how have they been staying sane during the pandemic? Me launching this show, though obviously there's some stressors with trying to do a live show from home with a toddler here.
No.
Yeah,
Really?
just little stressors, but in general, it's been a beneficial thing for me because it gives me a reason to look a little nicer than the everyday since I'm
Yes.
not going out to work. And it's another opportunity to like engage with the world,
Yes.
which has been limited. So how, what kind of things are helping you to stay sane during a pandemic?
So walking, but also teaching the live streaming courses has been amazing. Like I think because of the pandemic and like wanting that need for contact with other adult humans, um I think I've taught like more than 50 people over like since the pandemic started about live streaming from like all over the
Wow,
world, like the UK,
that's
Canada,
awesome.
South Africa, India. Like I never would have thought that would happen, but like we learn all about live streaming, but we also like get to know each other better and have a lot of fun, and that's certainly been an awesome thing during this crazy pandemic.
Yeah.
you know
And I imagine like being able to share like this knowledge that you have and like give this value to people all over the world, like has to
Yeah.
feel just like amazing, especially now when we're so like feeling like we can't do anything about what's going on around us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why it's been like, I kind of feel like there's a special bond between people in the program because we're all like, in our own way, we've all been going through this pandemic, whether it was at the beginning part or now we're in the middle, like we're all going through something and we're all yearning for more connection, right? And
Right.
and the courses have been one way that have brought people together.
I definitely can see that. I feel like I was a bad student when I was in the course.
Oh.
I felt like I couldn't get in there and be as engaged as I would have liked, but I made it sometimes. I made it
You did.
sometimes.
You did.
Um, and I would definitely say, so if you guys go back and watch like season 1, episode 1 of the show, so now I think I definitely made some improvements, and I definitely feel part of that is from being in Tim's class because I launched the show
Yeah.
right before your course started,
Yeah,
and
I
I
remember.
definitely have improved from there. And I know there's some people in our group who um, I think may be venturing into doing more live streams. Some people are new to live streams. Um, I know I'm not gonna like single anyone out, but like I know we have some new authors
Mhm.
in the group who are going to be doing some like live things like readings of their book and launching their books. I know we have some
Awesome.
pastors in the group who are live streaming their services now because of the pandemic. So I would definitely recommend Tim's course for
Thanks.
those of you who are watching this from the live Facebook group. Um, so that there's definitely tips and tricks and things that you can learn from Tim about how to make your live streams better. And for those who are going to watch this later when season 2 launches on YouTube, definitely, hopefully you get some new people from further out in the world
Awesome.
to join
Thank
your
you.
course. Miss Lily says, this is so true. You get to meet friends from all walks of life through social media platforms. I think she's talking about
Yes.
when you're meeting all the people from around the world. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of negativity about social media that we hear much more often than the positive. But
Yeah.
I really like to remind people, you are in control of your feed, what you see. You have a lot of say in what you see, what you don't see. You can hide
Yeah.
people, you can block people, you can delete stuff. And the things you engage with, the more you'll see of that. So there's a lot of positive things going on social media and opportunities to feel connected and engaged when we can't physically be as connected and engaged as we like to be. Um, before I get to my last two kind of signature questions, Tim, do you want to share maybe when your next class is going to be or anything else interesting going on with you or some social media solutions? And
Sure.
correct me if
So
I'm saying it wrong, because you're right, it is a long business name.
yeah, and it's on everything. It's like in my email address. It's in like people are like, seriously? Like, really? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Suffer through
you have to put it
it.
everywhere. You have to put it everywhere.
No, I'm just kidding.
I have Chase and
Um,
Joy everywhere, obviously.
yeah, it looks great. Looks great. So my next course I'm launching is on starts on May 10th. And it's for anyone who wants to launch their own live show in 6 weeks. Um, go everything over everything from how to get past the fear of going on video to actually figuring out what your show is going to look like, what you'll talk about. Will you have a host? Will you have a guest? Will you have whatever it's going to look like? How to promote your show, the tech. So like really pretty much everything you need to know before you actually launch it, and then hopefully actually launch it within those 6 weeks. That's really the goal of the course. So That starts May 10th. The other thing I'd like to invite your community, if they want to go to risewithlive.com/impact, there is a free downloadable PDF called 5 Ways to Make a Massive Impact with Live Video.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So thank you.
Let me write it down so I can well, you can put it in the chat because Tim is in our
Yes.
group, by the way. Tim has been part of Chasing Joy Chasers for a long time. So feel free to put it in our group, but tell me it one more time. The
Sure.
website to go to.
risewithlive.com/impact.
/impact. All right. I'm gonna make sure I go download that myself.
Yay.
Janice says she has a fear of video.
You're not
Maybe
the
you could
only
share like
person.
one quick tip for Janice before she signs up for the course that starts May 10th.
One
help
quick
with
tip
that
to get
fear.
past the fear.
Yeah.
For one tip is if you don't want to show up and stare at that 0 number, is to invite other people, send them a direct message and say, hey, here's the link to the live stream, or I'm going to be on my Facebook page, wherever you're going to do it, so that you're not alone. You're not just like staring at a 0. You're still looking at your webcam, but you know that there's other people out there listening to you and hopefully commenting, so then you can even respond to those comments while you're live.
That's a good tip.
Thanks.
Yeah. So you don't have to feel alone. Like it's just
Right.
you and your camera, you and your laptop, you and your phone.
Exactly.
Have someone else ready to watch and engage with you.
Yeah.
All right, Tim. So the 2 questions that I asked everyone, and these questions are really kind of like throwbacks to when I had the Chasing Joy newsletter. Chasing Joy has been around for a decade now.
Oh my gosh,
Crazy. 10
congratulations.
whole years. And so a few years ago, I would do a quarterly newsletter, pretty much the same thing I'm doing now, except now we're having live conversations. Then it was just written in a newsletter. But I would ask every single participant what was the last movie that they saw and what was the last trip you went on. So obviously we're in a pandemic, so traveling isn't what it used to be for a lot of us.
Yeah.
So you can define trip as broadly as you like.
So the last movie I saw in a theater before the pandemic was Onward.
Oh, okay.
We haven't really been watching a lot of movies on like Netflix, but we just finished watching The Crown the other day. Have you seen that?
I have not watched that in a while. I was watching The Crown. I feel like when it first came out, and I got a few seasons in, and then I kind of fell off. And now, because of the recent like media stuff with the royal family, I was like, I should probably go back to that and kind of get caught up because I'm sure these next seasons are going to probably be good as they get. I guess I don't even know if they stay up with like how current they get.
I don't know. I don't know how soon they film it ahead of time.
Right. And I saw a little bit of Onward. I do have the Disney streaming thing now. And we watched a little bit of it, but I think my son was too little to be engaged. So we didn't make it through the whole movie yet.
Yeah.
And your last trip?
We actually went to Hershey a few months ago to like the chocolate world.
Oh, okay.
It was weird during the pandemic, but they did it nicely and everything. So
okay. Was it empty? Did it feel empty?
Yes, very empty.
Because I know they
Very
can't have
strange.
as many people, and you had to wear a mask in there.
Yeah.
But
it was fun.
The last time I was in Hershey's, I saw you there. That was the last time I was there. Yep, for the conference. And I have I have been thinking about going back myself. So that's interesting that you were there. Maybe I'll try to go.
Yeah.
'Cause there's a zoo out that way that I would like to
Mhm.
take my son to. Um, yeah, yeah. I might look into that because I've not been on a trip like that kind of trip for a while. My last trip, I did a day, not even a full day trip, a half day trip. I drove to Atlantic City when some of my family from Maryland came to Atlantic City. And that's a shorter drive than Maryland.
Yeah.
So I went there for and spent like the evening with them the week, I think the week before last.
Oh,
That was my
nice.
last trip. And I couldn't remember my last movie. I was trying to think about that today. I was like, I try to watch movies on Saturday night when I'm not doing the live stream
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, I can stay up later because I don't have to get up early for work tomorrow.
Right.
Um,
Right. Our girls actually went to the movies like in person the other day for the first time
oh
since the
wow.
pandemic.
Yeah, I heard that they've moved. How was that for them?
Well, there were only two other people in the theater, but it's one of the theaters where they have like really big seats, and they were leaving us like a whole seat in between if
Mm-hmm.
there would have been other people. So it would have been spaced well and
Okay.
everything. Um, so I think they're handling it good. The girls were happy. Like they've been so like any opportunity to leave, they've been like dying, which I
Yeah.
I don't blame them at all.
No, I'm sure I can't. In some ways, it's good. My son is so small. He'll be 3 this month, so he's not
Oh yeah.
really aware. But even I can even tell that he's bored. Something because one
Yeah.
day he was like literally asking for every person we knew. I think he was just like anybody other than you, because I've been here with you every day this week. Like who else?
Oh my
Who
god.
else can we spend time with? Um, Tim, thank you so much for being on the show. It has been great having you. Um, I definitely recommend those of you who are new to live streaming or planning to get into it to take some course. And I'm
Okay.
definitely going to go and download my handout there. Um,
Woo-hoo.
thank you for helping me kick off season 2. I'm so proud that we're keeping this show going with season 2.
You should
Our
be
next,
proud.
yes,
I'm happy
thank
for
you.
you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I do appreciate it. Our next episode is going to have Tamika DeYoung, who is the owner of Amani Counseling. Season 2 is going to be full of, I'll say, your most trusted voices in society. We have lots of educators and lots of therapists. So the people we trust with our kids and the people we trust with our innermost thoughts are going to be joining me as we go forward this season, talking about happiness, how we can have more of it, how we can build more resilience. Um, I'm gonna just double check really quick to make sure I wasn't missing any questions, and I think we answered them all. So with that, Tim, it's been wonderful, and I will see you in the group.
Thanks so much, Arlett, and
All
everyone
right,
tuning in. Thank you all.
all right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.